Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Have a bit of fun. I always said that at some point or another a plant was going to have to come out of one of the Holey clay pots, and this is the time. Now this is a bit of a swizz really, bit of a cheat, because this plant has been sat in the dining room for about 3 weeks waiting to be thrown out, but obviously I don't want to lose the pot, if you see what I mean, and I just haven't got round to effectively I was about to destroy the plant. And then I thought, well, it may be a long time before I actually take one out of a pot for real, so why not treat this one as though it was for real and film it? So that's what I'm going to do, but effectively I'm chucking the plant out. It's a manky plant, just a no ID hybrid. It's badly, well, if it wasn't dehydrated before, it is now. It hasn't seen any water for 3 weeks. But the theory is to just take it out of its pot. Now this was originally wired in, so that should be the first job, is to get the wire off the rhizome. We'll worry about taking the wire out of the pot in a minute, unless it happens to be holding on to things. Now obviously there are an awful lot of roots outside the pot. Let me just get a pair of scissors, as I'm not keeping the plant. It doesn't matter whether they're sterile or not. Things like old dead roots like that are of no use just need to come off next to the pot so that they don't stop the plant pulling out. However, there are some roots, it's got scale on it, that root, on the outside of the pot. There are some roots that are probably worth trying to thread back through, and some that aren't. The easier this pulls out of the pot, the better. Now if that root will thread back through, I shall be over the moon. To assist it, there's some sticky out bits, so effectively what we've got, that part of the root can come off, leaving this bit. That root would regenerate. If that got some moisture on it, that would grow. So if that will thread back through the hole, all well and good. The rest don't matter. Now the next thing, roots out of the way, they effectively become rubbish in a minute, is to just see how much of the media will shake out. Simple as that, just turn it upside down and see what comes out. And try not to break the pot. A good shake and a good wiggle. And in theory, a lot of the media should just come out. What's left in there is hanging on to roots. But I think this is going to dislodge. I don't think this is actually that well attached. Seems to be coming out of its own accord. So far so good. And where is it attached? Down through here. Oh, now that's come out quite easy. Now last time I did this, I actually gave it a really good soak beforehand. This is bone dry, so we do have some roots attached on the inside of the pot, and we do have this root that I'm hoping to thread back through. So the idea is, when you've got roots attached, is to use some sort of kitchen knife which is effectively blunt. You don't tend, you know, the knife and fork that you eat your meals with is not normally a sharp knife, is it? Unless it's a steak knife, obviously. So that's got no edge on it. So it's not a sharp knife, but it's got a usable edge. And then the idea is you just run it round between the roots and the pot. And you will cut them, and they will be damaged. But it's a one-sided one. That one's just going to come off. And then we've got this long one that I'm hoping to thread back through. This may not work, but it did. So the pot's now detached, and what we now have is a plant with lots of bits of bark attached to the roots. Do I need to get this bark off? The answer is no. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not old bark, it's rock hard bark. There is one problem though. I can see scale all over it. So Anyway, the plan was to throw the plant out. Do you know what? I think I might... We could have an experiment with this. There's no sign of a new growth, but if there's going to be one, it's going to be here. This is one of these two was the last to bloom. I'm just going to cut the rhizome. I know I haven't sterilised my scissors, but I'm about to sterilise the plant. And the reason I'm cutting it there is that hopefully I haven't now got too many roots. I know that sounds daft, I haven't got many roots, this is good, but it's an experiment to see if I can get this to grow. There's no sign of pink on the rhizome, so we haven't got to do battle with that. But I do want every bit of bark off so that I can hopefully clean these roots off totally of the scale on a much reduced sized plant like that. And then what we will do is we will get this in a small pot. I'm just going to take the tatty roots off, and I'm going to get this in a small pot. Hopefully these roots may start growing. We'll give them a trim. They're live inside, or they look as though they are, although that's broken there, so it just as well come off. So there's not much of a root system, but I'm going to stick this in nothing more than moss. Now this was the latest growth, and it does have two stumpy bits of roots. They don't look like they're going to grow. But one thing I would recommend is if you're going to do some sort of recovery on a plant to try and get some roots to activate by standing it in some moss, get the sheaths off with Cattleya types, because they will often inhibit the root growth. So get the sheaths off, expose the rhizome where the roots are supposed to be going to come out from. So give them an extra chance. So I'm just taking these woody bits off, because they can get quite woody and quite stiff. Now obviously when a plant's growing normally, there would be moisture around the base, if not permanently, then with a wet dry cycle, and it softens them and allows the roots to push through easily. But this has become hard. Alright. And also, as it seems reasonably obvious, this thing has got some scale. Look, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to focus on that, but in behind there is a chunk of scale, which I'm going to try and hook out with the scissors. They get in, they form like a hard lump. There it is, look. Yeah, and that's scale. And you put your treatment on, and you only get the ones on the surface, and all the ones buried underneath are sheltered by the bodies of those that have been sacrificed on the top. So get them off. And I always say that if you're really going to treat scale, then remove what you can see. That way you're only killing what's left, which is a very, very reduced number, and the chances are you will get them all. And they'll get in under sheaths, just one will survive, and then it'll start it all over again. So clean your plant up visibly, get your eyes on, do the job manually first. Before you see, there's one in under that tiny little thin film. Yeah, there's a scale underneath it. Every single one you can see, and every single place they can hide, get at them like that. Now I'm not going to actually knock up a chemical spray one on the underside of the leaf. That one's already dead. On the underside of that leaf, no. Right, that's as much of a visual removal, mechanical removal, manual, whatever you want to call it, as I can possibly do. And now I've got choices for treatments. I'm not sure that hydrogen peroxide would kill scale. I've never been sure. But it would clean up these roots and guarantee there's no other things like pathogens and spores and things like that. It'll clean those off and do a good job on those. But whether it will actually kill the scale, I don't know. Not that there's many left here now. We've had a really good go at them everywhere that I can see, and we've removed the bark, which is where quite a lot of them were hiding. Yeah, it is worth noting, you know, you go to town on your plant, but they will get in on the roots and on the bark, on your media. Yeah, so you think you've cleaned the plant and you haven't, because they're hiding in the below ground. You know, they will get down in there, especially in an airy mix like this is just bark. They can get in there and not stay submerged because it dries out quickly. So I'm going to try and start that growing again. The 2 leaves I got, that one is quite badly dehydrated. That probably won't survive, that leaf. But the other one hasn't dehydrated too bad yet and may well plump up and get some water in through the base. So we'll see if we can regenerate this plant, rejuvenate it, get it going again. It does have a very attractive flower. It's always been a rubbish plant. So we'll see what we can do by rejuvenating it. I'll be back. Right, quick easy pot with this. There's my plant. Suitably cleaned up, or I hope it is anyway. This is just going to sit in on moss. I won't say in, I'll say on. So we'll have some moss. This is just not getting packed, this is just getting flopped in. Very, very loose, plenty of air. And then I might have to take some out actually so that we can get the roots at least down in there. And the idea with the 2 sticky bits is that I've got something to tie the plant upright with, otherwise it won't stay upright. Not in loose moss like this. Oh, not enough. Got air stacks. I'll get some more on the go then. Amazing how much water this holds, this dry moss. Not attempting to use live moss, because if this works it's not going to be in here long. Cattleya roots that regenerate and start branching out from older roots do it rather quickly. So as I said, I don't plan on this being in here very long. But I need the moss to touch the base of the rhizome. Otherwise it won't do its job. So I'm going to have to do some tucking in underneath, like that. And it's just sitting on it. A bit down the side to stop it flopping around because there's a gap. But, when I water, obviously the water will try and flatten the moss down a bit. But with any luck, because the roots go down in the moss, if the moss starts to flatten a little bit, it won't be the end of the world, and it will take the roots with it. So it'll all stay at the same level, if you see what I mean. It won't leave the plant high and dry. Right, that'll do. As I say, I only need it damp round the base to start that going. And as I said, the idea of the 2 sticks was so that I could just do a bit of tying to actually get it to stay in one place and not wobble around. It doesn't have to be anything flashy or special, it just needs to be tied off. Oh, this only needs to go round, doesn't it? Something like that. Tight enough that it doesn't slide down the stick, but not so tight as it tears the actual raffia, which is what happens with raffia if you pull too hard. There's only some sort of papery stuff anyway, isn't it? It's, you know, it's not exactly strong as such. So just to hold that in place, and then we only need to go around the plant in a loop. This doesn't need a knot, just needs a loop like that. And I'm not interested in tying the other piece, that can just get out of the way, so that we can come over here, nice and central, and if I pull on that like that, it will pinch it tight. I've effectively sprung loaded the 2 sticks by bending the edge of the pot in slightly. So they're under load now, if you know what I mean. So they'll keep that nice and tight. And just something to stop it coming undone. Again, it doesn't need to be anything tight. It's just to stop it coming undone, really. You go around twice and turn it into a knot. Right, now it's a knot. And there we go, that's all I wanted to do. Sticky out ends, we don't need those. And that's nice and firm on the two sticks. Oh dear, I've got a huge puddle now underneath the plant. I can stand in there for, let me just, I need to get rid of that puddle, simply because it's going to go somewhere otherwise. And with any luck that will just go straight back in the dish. Newspaper will dry off anyway, so that's got there out of the way for now. So that's my Cattleya. I'll put the original label back in, even though I can't read it, but because it's a yellow label I know which one it is, and I know which plant it is. As I say, it's a very large flowered Cattleya, based on magenta and deep yellow, those sort of, you know, the classic corsage type Cattleya basically, but it was never a good plant. If this regenerates a good root system, and I've got a couple of roots near the edge of the pot to be able to witness some growth, as well as stuff coming out from the base if possible. If it can push out a reasonably good root system before it goes back in bark and get a new growth started, even better. It is due a new growth. It hasn't been out of flower a huge amount of time, so we should get a new growth on there soon. Which one it will come out of, we'll have to wait and see, but it should get going. And we'll see how it does. As I say, I've got room for this. I have got space in the grow room now. This is not going in high light. This will go on a lower shelf. It doesn't need light at the moment, not strong light, because it's not actively growing. It just needs a little bit. So this can come out of the bright light into a shadier spot and just keep that moss moist. Doesn't need to be dripping wet. It is now, but that won't last long in the grow room with the heat, will it? So there we go. We'll see what happens. It'll either grow or it won't. As I was going to throw it away anyway, it doesn't, to me it doesn't matter either way, but we'll see what it does. See you next time.